Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Two Footed Tackle podcast. I'm your host, Ari Stamatakos, and we're back again for episode 9. I think we are episode 9 of the World Cup, day 8 in a row. And as you can tell, the voice is going. It is very, very much not there if you compare it to what it was pretty much 4 podcasts ago. The difference is drastic, and it's quite funny actually to go back and listen to it and listen to my voice now. But I guess that's the sacrifices you have to make. Apologies if this podcast is going to be slightly less listenable, if that's even a word, listenable, because of it. I apologise. It's one of those things. I think I initially blamed it on the 21st that I had on Friday, but then I realised, okay, maybe doing this every day, not really sleeping a whole lot, not sleeping a whole lot doing this every day, not sleeping a whole lot, the 21st, and screaming during the Australia-Tunisia game. Maybe it was a perfect storm that has come to lead to this slightly shit voice, to put it frank. But hopefully it recovers soon-ish. I don't think it will, as I'm slightly falling a little bit under the weather as well, which just isn't what you want. Just isn't what you want. We need to be waking up at stupid o'clock and doing this every day. But we'll battle through. We'll soldier through, because we can only move forwards, and we can only just keep doing what we're doing. So, I hope everyone's well. I hope the day has treated everyone nicely. Once again, a slightly less enthusiastic podcast than what it potentially was yesterday. Got to cut me some slack. Cut me some slack, because it was yesterday's podcast was unreal. I love doing it. So it's probably going to be slightly shorter. It's going to be probably slightly less enthusiastic, slightly more kind of neutral down the line, a little bit more tactical as well. But no, there you go. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be very, very interesting to see how this one goes. But it probably will be slightly shorter than yesterday's. I don't think we're going to crack the 50-minute mark. Potentially not even crack the 40-minute mark, because my voice is on the edge. But no, yes. What else? Plugging all the stuff before I can get into the football. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for all the support on yesterday's pod. Thank you for all the support on everything so far. It means the world to me. Make sure you share everything around. Get people to subscribe to it. It means the world when I say that those numbers tick up. Those vanity metrics tick up. It means the world to me. So yeah. And if you want to do that, all the socials are in the link in the description of YouTube. Relevant links are in the Twitter and Instagram bios. And then I'm assuming if you're listening on Spotify, you already know all of that. So I don't need to tell you. But yes. Share around, do all that good stuff. Do the best thing on every app. That would mean the world to me. Okay, let's crack on and let's start. Let's start things with the first game over the weekend. So not over the weekend. Sorry, over the last day. That was of course Sunday night. Japan versus Costa Rica. Now of course the I wouldn't say the repercussions maybe of this group were massive. Were absolutely massive, because before the game was kicked off, Japan were on 3 points. Costa Rica on none. Costa Rica on none, no points. And if Japan had won and Japan had got through, it would have pretty much all but confirmed Germany's exit if they failed to beat Spain. Now, we all expected Japan to win. I expected Japan to win. I predicted last podcast I thought Japan would win. I was very confident Japan would win. I was very confident that they'd get out of the group. As you can tell by the title of my podcast, maybe 3 or 4 episodes ago, almost guaranteed qualification. Actually, no, that wasn't the title, but I spoke about almost guaranteed qualification for Japan in that episode. I put it bluntly, I didn't see a way that Costa Rica were going to be able to win this game. I watched both, went back and watched a little bit more of the Costa Rica game. Obviously, I knew what we were going to get from Japan. Went back and looked at Costa Rica a little bit and wanted to find out what they were about, especially when they had the ball, because I thought they would have a little bit more of the ball against Japan. So when they did have the ball against Spain, in the very rare times they did, I wanted to see what they were doing, and there wasn't really a structure to the way that they were playing against Spain. Granted, it's Spain, and their structure is unbelievable, as we've touched on. Both in and out of possession, their structure is very, very good. So it's very hard to kind of judge the opposition against Spain just because of how inherently good they are. But it was interesting to see how how Costa Rica were going to approach this game. Of course, Japan probably have the better side. Japan had more of the momentum, and Japan realistically should have on paper won this game quite comfortably. And the first half kind of went exactly to the script of Costa Rica in a sense, because Costa Rica didn't want this game. Apologies. Costa Rica didn't want this game to become end to end. Didn't want this game to become frantic. Didn't want this game to become a kind of. Didn't want this game to become a basketball match in a sense where it's free flowing, and they wanted to suffocate it. They didn't want Japan to. They didn't want to allow Japan any space. They didn't want to allow Japan any room to move in a sense. And what Costa Rica needed to do was that, and they did do that in that first half. It was a boring first half. If we're gonna be blatantly honest, there was only 1 minute of added time, which goes to show just how boring it was, considering how much added time there has been throughout this tournament. And that's a testament to Costa Rica and their ability to suffocate games, and their ability to really restrict Japan, especially going forward. Now we take a look at the second half. If we take a look at the second half, or if we take a look at it, even if we take a look at the first half, take a look at the first half stats. Costa Rica had a lot more of the ball. They had 58 possession to 42, but apart from that, there was no shots. There was no real big chances created. There was 5 shots across the first half, none on target. So across both teams, none on target. So it was a game which, especially in that first half, was played played very well was played in Costa Rica's hands, I should say. And if we take a look at the second half, that's when Japan really needed to start to get an ascendancy on the game, and that's when they did start to get an ascendancy on the game. They really got on top, really got on top, and it was what we all expected to see from this Japan side. Now we look at the Japan side against Germany. It was reliant on the counter attack. It was really reliant on kind of. Of course, their first half wasn't great. They moved to a 3. They brought Tamayasu on and moved to a 3. And that kind of changed the game. That allowed them to kind of overload on the wide flanks, getting behind that German defense, especially that very high German back line with the wing backs pushing very high. They were able to get those spaces in behind the fullbacks and really attack the defense that way. So it was interesting to see whether or not they would go with the same approach. They made, if I'm not mistaken, they made no changes at half. Oh no, they made 2 changes at halftime. They brought Asano and Huako Ito on for Nagatoma and Ueda. So that obviously sparked a little bit of a change. Obviously, they gave them fresh legs, a little bit more of a structure change as well, coming with those 2 players. So what that allowed was, it just allowed a different dynamic. And when things don't work, I feel like halftime, and especially first half substitutions, are a little bit underrated in a sense, because when it's not working, you need to change it. And when the opposition have kind of figured out a player or figured out a team, throwing a player on, changing formations, changing the dynamic of the team, really can mess up the opposition and really can just change the dynamic of the whole game. So it can even be as subtle as it can even be as subtle as bringing on like a left side, like a left winger that's left-footed. That's a true winger, instead of bringing in someone who can cut inside, which allows for the overlapping fullback. So that's pretty predictable. So getting a true winger on who will hug the touchline, who will be very wide and maintain the width. That obviously allows for maybe some central midfielders to occupy that half space, maybe even an inverted winger, or inverted fullback, I should say. Maybe the wingback drops into a 3 and they can restructure their formation that way. So it can really be very nuanced, the change that teams can make. And I think the nuanced changes that Japan made in this game definitely helped them get back into the game, and definitely allowed them to really get a foothold into the game. They really dominated the game. If we look at the second half possession, if we look at the second half stats just in general, they had 75% possession to 25, 11 shots to 1, 6 shots inside the box, 340 passes. It was, once again, it was just dominant. It was utterly dominant, and we all thought it was inevitable when they were going to get the breakthrough, and we all thought they potentially could have earned the breakthrough. And on the 70th minute, when they had that player go through on goal, that was fouled. So that was fouled on the edge of the box. Only a yellow card given to Francesco Galvo. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Only a yellow card given when it could have been a red. It was very borderline, in my opinion. So it was very borderline. So you were kind of looking at it as if, what avenue was the referee going to go down? He went with it wasn't really last man. In my opinion, it was a denial of a clear goal scoring opportunity. and he didn't play the ball. Granted, it was outside the box, but in my opinion, that's a straight red. There was everything about that showed to me that it was a clear goal scoring opportunity. So it was one of those things. But anyway, the referee went yellow. Nothing came of the free kick, and then 11 minutes later, 11 minutes later, the we all were kind of shocked when I think it was Maya Yoshida kind of miscued a clearance. The ball fell to Keshe Fuller, and his shot was travelling. And I'm being pretty generous in saying this. It was travelling at about the pace of this. For audio listeners, my arms are moving in a circular motion at about, I want to say about 4 kilometers an hour. It was moving at about a pace like this, and the goalkeeper jumped. The goalkeeper jumped about 4.5 years too early, and he realised he wasn't going to get there. He was only going to get there when he was coming down. Tried to tip it over the bar, tried to tip it to the side, couldn't get enough purchase. He tipped it into his own net, and euphoria, really, absolute euphoria. They had 11 minutes, or they had 9 minutes plus 6, so they had 15 minutes to hold on, and very nervous moments, very tense moments. Japan had a couple of clear chances, but at the end of the day, it was Costa Rica who got all 3 points, and it was Costa Rica who put the cat amongst the pigeons in Group E, and it was Costa Rica who have put themselves, unbelievably so, in a position to finish in the top 2 spaces of Group E, which after their first game was something which no one thought was ever in the realm of possibility. So yeah, it was a magical day if you're a Costa Rican supporter, and it was a day which a lot of people will put into the history books as one of the, I want to say, great World Cup upsets, but a day, especially if you're Costa Rican, which will live in infamy. Because of the way that you did it. It was backs against the wall. It was pick yourself up by the collar, and it was a magical day for them. But I think this I want to speak on Japan a little bit at the back end of this, because this was a despite the result and despite the differences, obviously the nuanced differences, this was a very similar Japan team to what we saw against Germany, and that is potentially a little bit surprising because obviously the result, it's like how can you play the same way against Germany and Costa Rica without winning both, without beating Costa Rica if you beat Germany, right? But as I've mentioned before, like I've said, I've used the phrase styles make fights and styles make games. Japan are a side which obviously we all know the technical ability that so many of their players have. It's ridiculous, right? Just how comfortable on the ball literally every player in that squad is. But then you look at the way that they play. It is heavily reliant on the counter attack. It is heavily reliant on being very very stringent and very structured defensively before then using your technical ability and using that flair and that pace that you've got up front to kind of just weave some magic. That's what we saw against Germany. That's what we saw against Germany, especially in that second half. That's what we saw when both of those goals went in, and it was a thing of, all right, can they do it with possession? Can they break a team down? Can they really pass through a team tactically and really just kind of destroy them, like, in a sense? Because that's what Japan needed to do. They needed to destroy Costa Rica in order to break them down, because despite their 7-0 loss to Spain, Costa Rica are a stringent team defensively. It's very rare that, especially, maybe Spain's probably one of the only teams in world football that can do it because of just how ridiculous they are, right? But with Costa Rica, you need to be very, very good to break them down. And Japan weren't that in possession. They weren't very good, or they weren't good enough to break them down. They were very reliant on kind of a little bit of individual talent to break through set pieces, counter attacks, like I said. So I guess this is something that they probably won't need to worry about, because they've got Spain in their final group game, a game which if they're going to qualify, they need to win. And I need them to qualify. Because of my antics on Twitter. If you saw that, then there you go. But I need them to qualify, and they've got Spain, and they've got a Spain side which will be willing, or which will be needing to play a full strength team. Will be needing to win that game, in order to secure qualification. Because if Japan and Costa Rica both win, if Japan and Costa Rica both win, then of course of course, we're going to see a scenario in which Spain and Germany are both out, which is just ridiculous. It's just absolutely absurd. But once again, it's a World Cup, so yeah, there you go. But Japan shouldn't take too much. Shouldn't be dented in their confidence enough from this game because of the way that they normally play against big teams. They're going to be versing big teams for the rest of the tournament, right? Especially Spain. And if they get through to round 16, they're going to be versing a pretty good team, right? So they're not going to be able to think about this result a little bit. They're going to be able to, in terms of they're not going to be able to think, we can't break a team down, because every team that they're going to verse from now on, you'd think is going to hold possession, going to be more of the assertive team against them. So yeah, that's obviously something that they're going to need to put in the back of their mind and say, all right, this was just a poor result, poor performance. Let's just move on quickly and let's just go into the next game against Spain, where we can just do what we did against Germany and we should be able to get a result. But yeah, that was a huge game for Costa Rica. Pretty boring game in all fairness, but yeah, there you go. It was one of the magical things about football, and another magical thing about football is the truly magical moment of the day, and that was of course a Belgium 0, Morocco 2. What can you say? What can you say? It's a magical night, absolutely magical night. And I mean, if you go through the game, obviously Belgium went with a little bit of a four at the back system. They moved back to their four at the back system after playing with a three pretty much for the foreseeable, or for the recent past anyway. This, like, I mean, you look at the defense and you see Alderweireld and Vertonghen, and you're thinking, fuck, 2017 called, or like, mate, Daniel Levy called from 2017. He wants his centre half partnership back, like that's very concerning, and of course this is a very typical thing of this Belgium golden generation that has been kind of clung onto by like everything that they've got. They're not going to let it go. They're not going to let it go because they can't let it go. So yeah, this of course was a pretty good team, like a more than capable team for Belgium. Of course, that front four of De Bruyne, Hazard, and Batshuayi, Onana and Witsel playing slightly deeper, Munier and Castagna with Courtois in goal. This team should be capable enough to beat Morocco. Should be capable enough to beat Morocco and beat them quite comfortably. Potentially not convincingly, like I'm not talking a 4-5, 6-0, but a comfortable 2-0 win. Just get the job done and move on to the final group game where you need to win, right? Or where you are already through. But no, it wasn't that, and it was despite a very good start from Belgium, despite a very comfortable way of playing football. In terms of like they were passing it around, they were being very incisive in possession. They were a lot better than what I thought they were, although a lot better than what they were, especially against Canada, who we'll touch on a little bit later. But they were a lot better than what they were in that game. So it was kind of okay, this is a new Belgium team. This is a new Belgium team, new Belgium expectations, and maybe the tournament starts from now. However, they couldn't find the breakthrough. They couldn't find a breakthrough, especially in that first maybe 25 minutes where they really had an ascendancy. Maybe first half an hour where they really had an ascendancy, and then Morocco get back into the game. They start to even things up. Belgium were kind of a little bit more dominant, maybe towards the middle or like the back end of that half. If I can remember, they had a couple of chances, but then again, maybe it was more just they denied Morocco quite a lot. After Morocco got back into the game a little bit, they kind of halted that momentum and cut them off a little bit. Before the halftime whistle, and they were saved by the bell in a sense, because a goal was denied. Goal scored by Hakim Ziyech on the 45th minute. That was denied by VAR, and that was denied by VAR due to an offside call. Now, if I'm going to be honest, I don't see a world in which that is offside. Actually, no, that's such a lie. I think it's absolutely borderline. I think it's so borderline because is he the player offside? Yeah, the player's offside. Okay, he doesn't touch the ball. He doesn't influence play. The only way that I can see this getting ruled out is that if he blocked the view of the goalkeeper. Now, in my opinion, I don't think he does. I don't think he does to enough of an extent where it could negatively affect the goalkeeper into a big regard, in a sense, or to a drastic manner in which the goal had to be overturned. I don't see it. I just don't see it. And it's one of those things, right, where that either demoralises a team like Morocco, where they've been on the back foot for the most of the first half. They get that break, they get that lucky break where they can, okay, we're going to go into half time against Belgium 1-0 up, and then it's taken away from them. It can demoralise a team, and then it can also rejuvenate a team and really pump them up and get them excited and like give them this extra bit of energy that they really need. So it's one of those things, right, where it's depending on how the opposition kind of react to it. It's depending on how the opposition or how the team that's been affected by VAR goes back on it. I think it happening at halftime was pretty good, because they were able to just reset. Like, that didn't happen. Just put it in the back of their mind. Reset didn't happen. Let's just go into the game like we were 2 seconds. But let's just go with the same mentality that we had 2 seconds before the free kick went in. So yeah. It was, and of course, Morocco needed to respond because Belgium had a little bit of a stranglehold in that game. And there was a couple of subs happened on the hour mark. Tielemans and Mertens came on for Hazard and Onana. Pretty straight swaps. Tielemans offers a little bit more ball retention. Mertens offers a little bit more of like a striker's, poacher's instinct. So I guess those two kind of link up quite well. However, it was a pretty, I wouldn't say bland first half of the second half, but no side really got on top. No side really showed their dominance until the 73rd minute, where the first direct goal off a corner, off a free kick, Roman Saiss with a magical moment in Moroccan football, a magical moment in football. It's something which you won't see often. And when you do see it, you need to savour it, you need to bottle it up, and you need to experience it. Whether you're Moroccan, whether you're not, whether you're like got no links to Morocco at all, you need to bottle these moments up because these are the moments which make football great. These are the moments which make football unbelievable. When that free kick's whipped in, it gets past Courtois at the near post, and delirium, absolute delirium. Belgium try to get back into the game, and they leave themselves exposed. And then, of course, the second goal goes in from Morocco on 92 minutes, and then just euphoria, absolute euphoria. It's something which a lot of it's something which a lot of people won't experience. It's something which a lot of people won't kind of live with. A lot of people won't live with that feeling, especially if you come from like an England or even like France, Spain, Germany, Portugal. You don't live these truly underdog moments. And Australia had that to a very, very lesser extent against Tunisia, but we still had that backs against the wall style win. But this is what makes football great. This is what makes football so good. And I think that game was football in its purest form. That game was sport in its purest form. You have the agony, the ecstasy, the heartbreak, the adulation. And the thing is, it's going to be a day which both countries will remember for very, very different reasons. Very different reasons. And this is something that the World Cup has given us time and time again. And this edition of the tournament has been something else. This was an infamous day in the tournament's history, an infamous day in the sport's history, because like Leicester winning the league, like Saudi Arabia beating Argentina, like Ghana getting to the quarterfinals in 2010, this shows a light, and this gives faith to the underdogs to get the job done, because football isn't played on paper. Football isn't played with price tags next to people's names. It's played with 11 versus 11, and that's all it comes down to. So when you get results like this, it gives hope to every other nation who is the underdog or is slightly less or isn't given the faith that like other countries are given. it's just a magical moment. It's what the World Cup's for. It's it's just brilliant. It is absolutely brilliant, and something that it's something that you need to savor. Something that you need to savor as a football fan, like I said, because you need to bottle this experience up. You need to bottle all of this up, and just just let it out because it's a magical moment. Absolutely magical moment. Um, when we look at Belgium, I mean, they're on the precipice, aren't they? They're on the absolute precipice because if they get if they need to win, they need to win on the assumption that Morocco cannot lose by at least 3 goals. Belgium need to win. Points not good enough. A win, but a Morocco win isn't good enough. Morocco get a point. Belgium need to win. That's the equation. That is the equation, and it's so fascinating because a lot of people looked at this group and had Croatia going out. From what I saw, anyway, a lot of people had Croatia going out and having Belgium go through and having Belgium get to pretty far. I saw a lot of people saying quarters, saw a lot of people saying semis, and when you look at the talent, you kind of are justified by saying that. When you look at the talent on the pitch, you look at what this team has been able to do, especially 2018 reached the semis, 2020 they reached the quarters of the Euros, I want to say. So they're by far they're a very good team. They're a very good team. But it's once again, like I said, football isn't played on paper, and football is a game of margins, a game of inches, and like if Courtois stands 5 centimeters to his right, maybe he gets to that first cross, and maybe this game is completely different. But you can't think about it any other way because it's happened, and Belgium need to go to this game against Croatia where they can definitely get a point. Belgium can definitely get a point against Croatia by all means. That of course would see them through if Morocco lose by 3 goals against Canada, and Belgium can definitely beat Croatia as well. So Belgium aren't out of it just yet. They aren't completely out of it just yet. But it's one of those things, isn't it? One of those things. And when you watch Belgium, especially in that first game against Canada, they got away with things. They got away with things heavily. Heavily they got away with things. Canada were by far the better team. I said Canada were by far my most impressive team heading into or at the end of the first round of games, which is quite funny now that they're actually eliminated, which is hilarious. But it's a magical feeling. It's a magical moment, absolutely magical moment because, like I said, it's just this euphoria. It's just this absolute euphoria for Morocco and this heartbreak for Belgium. And it makes people think, it makes people turn and think, oh fuck, this is real. Like, this is real. And when we take a look at of course, the next game, Canada Croatia. I mean, you can't really take a lot out of it. Canada, of course, got their first ever World Cup goal. Alfonso Davies with their first ever World Cup goal. Magical moment once again, just more magical moments piling on top of magical moments. And when I saw this, I was like, oh please get the job done, please get the job done. But Kramarić's equaliser just after the half an hour mark, and then Livaya's goal just before half time kind of crushed the hearts of many Canadians out there, crushed the hearts of many people who wanted to see this Canada side go far. It sucks. It is one of those things, right, where you look at it and just wasn't meant to be. Of course, they then piled 2 on top of that. Kramarić with the brace and Lovro Majer, who is an absolute baller, by the way. Lovro Majer's a freak. It sucked. It really sucked because, like I said, I had Canada going. I had Canada as my most impressive team. I had Canada as my most impressive team after the first round of fixtures. I thought they could definitely get a result against Croatia. I think I predicted them to get a result against Croatia, but I think class is temporary, form is temporary, class is permanent. Is how the saying goes. So you can't really kind of knock them in a sense because of just how good they have been for a long time, just how good they have been consistently for a long time. So Got to give them the credit they deserve. Have to give them the credit they deserve because once again, they deserve it. So I didn't really know how to speak on this game. Didn't really know how to speak on this game. Croatia are good. They are aging. They're a little bit of an aging team, but this 4-4-2 system, this 4-3-3 system, Modric, Kovacic, Brozovic, just unbelievable. This front three is very, very fluid. You have Kramaric, of course, being the central focal point, and then you have Perisic and Levi started this game, of course, being very just, not I want to say interchangeable, but being able to cut in, cut out, drop deep, push in between the lines, go over the top of the defence. So yeah, they're very well rounded, very versatile. And yeah, it was a very good result for Croatia. This means that they're through, I'm pretty sure. Does it? No, so the only way in which Croatia could not drop out is that if Morocco and Belgium both win. So, of course, they're not through with it just yet, but a point against Belgium gets them through. A point against Belgium gets them through. So they should get through, and if they don't, it'd be a shock to me. But once again, who knows? Who knows what could happen, right? Who knows what could happen? And if we move on to the final game of the day, Spain-Germany. A game that had a lot riding on it. Because of course we all know pre-game that despite the result in Japan, Costa Rica, Germany needed to get at least a point. Germany definitely needed to get at least a point because if they had lost this game 2-0, they'd be on 0 points. They need to win in their final game against Costa Rica, and they need to win pretty comfortably, right? So this, of course, was a pretty tough game for them. Spain, of course, were very, very good against Costa Rica, and Germany were terrible against Japan, right? So it is one of those things where you look at it and you think, all right, if you take the form of both sides before the game, it shouldn't even really be a competition, right? But once again, like I said many times on this podcast, football isn't played on paper. And football isn't played on form. Football is played in those 90 minutes. And Germany really got into the game. I wouldn't say pretty quickly, but they stifled Spain early. That's something which I was looking towards. If Germany allowed Spain to dominate the ball, have possession, be really fluid and be really intrinsic and very intricate in the final third and pass through them and carve them open like they did to Costa Rica, then we'd be in for a long day at the office, right? But Germany needs to just hold firm. They didn't necessarily need to attack from the first minute and be like the better team, but what they needed to do was just be very firm, very solid, be very relaxed. And then what would come from that was a way of getting back into the game naturally. Once you get more of your players into the game, once you get a little bit more possession, once the opposition starts to get a little bit more tired, then you can start to get into the game a little bit more. So what they needed to do was just stifle Spain early, and I thought they did that pretty well. The first real moment of the game came with that VAR cancelled goal from Antonio Rudiger, which of course would have been a massive goal for Germany if it stood. They would have put them in the lead and really given them a massive chance of holding on with things. However, halftime came 0-0, second half come, and then just after the hour mark, it was Alvaro Morata who got the goal. Who got the goal and really, really put the cat amongst the pigeons and really, really put Germany on the back foot and really, really tested out what this German side was made of. Because, like I said, this German side likes to fight, likes to play football. So when you put them on the back foot and when you have to kind of force them to, when you need to force them to do two things. Hold possession and be very patient and really just relax. That's when they are slightly struggle because naturally they're very high octane, high tempo. But then again, if you force them to go so far the opposite way where they need to force things, they need to play that Hollywood pass every single time, they need to get spam crossed into the box. They're the two avenues in which you can beat Germany. And I thought this Alvaro Morata goal really allowed them to Spain to I wouldn't say sit back, but just be really composed, really calming, which Spain are very, very good at, right? And of course it was Germany did get back into the game. Nicolas Füllkrug. So German. His name probably translates into I think his name translates into like full keg or something like that. If I can, I'm quickly going to find it. I saw it on Twitter, so I'll quickly find that. But yeah, of course, he's having a fantastic season in the Bundesliga. So he, of course, got subbed on to get that goal and to really be a presence up front, and he did prove to be that. So Füllkrug translates to filling jug. German names, huh? German names. You can't beat them. But of course, that was of course the goal in the 83rd minute, and then Japan and then Germany, despite probably being a little bit more dominant towards the back end of that game, saw out the 1-1 draw, and what this means is this is a very, very even group. Of course, it's going to be Japan versus Spain on the final day, Costa Rica versus Germany. Now, the equation is pretty simple for Spain and Japan. It's pretty simple. Get a point, and you're in. For Costa Rica and Germany, it's a lot less simple. Neither of them can afford to get a point. Both of them need to win in order to get through. And there is an equation in which Costa Rica beat Germany, and Japan. Costa Rica beat Germany, and Japan beat Spain. No, Costa Rica beat Germany, and Japan and Spain draw, and Costa Rica can finish top. That's insane. That is insane. That is absolutely mental. That's how it works, right? Yeah, that's how it works. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see. It's gonna be very fascinating to see. By the way, it'll be very fascinating to see. Actually, no, Spain and Japan don't need a point because if Costa Rica win, they knock Japan out. Well, is that right? Yeah, that is right. That is right. Okay, so Costa Rica, Japan need to win. Japan need to win because they can't risk Costa Rica getting a result against Germany. So it's going to be fucking interesting to see. I'm not sure when does that okay, so that falls on the same day as the Canada, Morocco, Belgium, Croatia games. That's at 2. Japan, Spain, Costa Rica, Germany's at 6. So that's gonna be interesting. That's gonna be very, very interesting. But yes, I guess we'll just have to wait and see, right? I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But let's move on and let's finish things up with a preview. The final games that will be on at what's it called? How do I fucking say this? The final games will be on at 9:00. The final 9:00 game, which sucks. It sucks. And the final midnight game as well. We have to wait till fucking 2 a.m. to watch the World Cup, which is a bit of a pain in the ass. But Cameroon, Serbia, South Korea, Ghana, Brazil, Switzerland, Portugal, Uruguay. Let's go through the permutations, right? Okay. I'm gonna go with, like I said, no reasoning, just predictions. Cameroon, Serbia, 2-0 Serbia. South Korea, Ghana, 1-0 South Korea. Brazil, Switzerland, 1-0 Brazil. No, Neymar will hurt them a little bit. There's reasoning for you. Portugal, Uruguay. 2-1 Uruguay. 2-1 Uruguay. Let's go throw the cat amongst the pigeons big time. But yeah, anyway, we're done. Like I said, slightly short episode. I want to try and make these episodes on and around 40 minutes because I feel like that's probably the best time for them. But yes, thank you all very much for watching another episode of the 2 Foot Tackle Podcast. Apologies for my voice. And somehow my light has stayed on. So I was going to mention this, but I was like, I'm going to mention it if it turns off. I forgot to... So basically, quick story. I have 2 batteries for my light. I plug one in, or I put one in the battery, in the light, and then I charge the other one. And then when that one dies, or like before the start of every podcast, I just swap them around, right? So I have a freshly charged battery for my light every single time. However, before last week's episode, I forgot to charge the spare one. So I looked at it, I was like, oh shit, I've probably got a battery for my light that's half dead, and I've probably got 2 half dead batteries. So I was like, that's probably going to die halfway through this podcast, but it hasn't died, so that's great news. So I'm going to have a fully charged light for next week, for tomorrow's pod, and I won't have to worry about it. But there you go. Okay, thank you all very much for watching another episode of the 2 Foot Tackle Podcast World Cup edition. Make sure you leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Subscribe, do all that good stuff. Like I said at the start of the episode, share it around, like it. On every platform, it would mean the world to me. But yes, see you guys tomorrow for the final 9:00, 12 a.m. kickoffs. and where we'll wrap up the second phase of the second round of group stage games, and we'll go who was the most impressive team for the second round of the group stage, like we did for the first round. But yes, we're gonna get a very clear picture of what the group stage we'll be looking at towards or in tomorrow's pod. But yes, thank you all very much for watching. Thank you for joining me once again. See you guys next time, and goodbye.